But right now, onto something that's a little bit different for Travelz. We're often talking about adventure. We're often talking about places you can go and things you can do that are unusual or things that other people haven't considered doing. And I know something that people don't usually consider doing is leaping out of an airplane at 11,000 feet. It's a bit of an odd pastime. It's a place that most people certainly don't go, or if they do, they like to do it inside of a metal tube. To discuss just why you should be jumping out of a plane, we've got a guy who's actually the MD of Premier Hotels Midrand, Greg Waspe, and he's here to talk about his hobby. Welcome to Studio, Greg.
Awesome. Nice to be here.
Okay, good. Let's start right at the beginning. How does a person begin jumping out of an airplane? Where does that idea come from?
Usually a drunken decision sort of at 11 o'clock at night. It sounds like a good idea, and then somehow you find yourself in a yellow jumpsuit being loaded into an aircraft the next morning and being thrown out at 4,500 feet.
Right, so it's basically living up to what you say you're going to do drunk, you do when you're sober, is that?
It's pretty much that. I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of skydivers out there who have been wanting to do it forever. Most people end up doing it accidentally. Most of the guys that I know actually accidentally ended up doing it. But yeah, it's something that really changes your life completely. Changes your perception on everything, changes how you view everything.
Okay, so you've been doing it now 4 months, which is a relatively short period, but at the same time you've been doing it intensely for 4 months. I mean, you've moved on from having your A license, which is your legal allowed to jump, to having your B license, which is kind of a more advanced thing. And you're doing, and I think as far as I know, you'll be C licensed by December, I think was the challenge you suggested you were going to be looking for.
Yeah, most probably will be March next year to
okay,
get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but you've already, skydiving has already taken you some quite interesting places, the least of which is Potchefstroom, which is where you actually go skydive, Carltonville, on weekends. So you head down to Carltonville, the Joburg Skydiving Club down there. Let's start quite simply if you're in Joburg.
Well, in Joburg, Gauteng's actually spoiled for choice. So we got four really good drop zones within close proximity. You've got Carltonville, which is most probably the biggest and best student drop zone in South Africa.
So where you would go to learn, essentially.
That's correct.
Right.
When you're starting out, the first thing you really want to know about is it safe? Is it going to be somewhere that it's going to be welcoming? And JSE is definitely that. I mean, it's formed most of the people I know's skydiving careers. Then you got Rustenburg, you got Wonderboom, Pretoria Skydiving Club, you got Witbank. And all four of those drop zones have got turbine aircraft, which is critical unless you want to sit in a little Cessna to spend about 45 minutes to get to 8,000 feet. But and also the people, the people at JSE in all of those places are fantastic. Whether you're just going for a tandem or actually want to do it yourself.
Well, that's what I was about to ask now. I was going to say, like, for the guy he's never skydived before, what are the options when it comes to getting to one of these drop zones and actually getting out of a plane in the end?
Well, first of all, build up the courage, I suppose. The best thing is just contact one of the drop zones and find out what's happening. I know JSE runs first jump course every second weekend if you want to do it solo. If you want to do a tandem, there's plenty tandem operations at all those drop zones. Just phone them up, go on the internet, Google it.
So a tandem jump is where you get strapped to an experienced skydiver and leap out together.
That's
and
great.
Solo is when you have to leave the plane by yourself, white-knuckled, and pull your own ripcord.
That's pretty much it, yes.
Okay, all right, good. So there are two options. And then even when it comes to learning to skydive solo, there's another two options there.
Okay, well, basically you've got what you call AFF, which is accelerated freefall, and you've got static line. Static line is, as it says, you've got a rope tied from your parachute to the plane. You fall out, no matter what happens, your parachute's going to...
Yeah, the rope pulls the deployment cord.
That's right. Yeah. AFF is effectively what happens. Your first jump, you jump with two instructors, not connected to them in any way. They fly next to you and just ensure that you go through all your drills. There's a whole lot of exercises you need to do. And then you pull your own ripcord. But from your first jump, you're going from 11,000 feet, 45 seconds of free fall.
Right.
And
whereas the static line, you start from 3,000 feet and then you slowly build yourself
up
up,
to
right?
11,000. That's correct.
Okay. And what does this sort of thing cost? I mean, what are you talking about in terms of expenses?
Well, there's a scientific calculation that they've actually done that skydiving costs exactly 2,000 Rand per month more than you earn. But
right.
In reality, it's it's pretty cheap to start if you're considering what you're actually doing. A first jump course to do static line is about 1,000 Rand. To do AFF It's about 2,700.
But now
including
AFF
the
gets you
course.
to your license quicker than you have to do more
Yeah.
jumps, right? So it works out, I think, roughly
Exactly
the
the
same.
same in the
Okay.
long run. And then a tandem as well costs you about 2,700 rand, complete with outside cameraman, inside camera, a produced DVD of your jumps, etc., etc.
Right, so you can actually watch yourself screaming like a little girl all the way to the bar. Right,
Correct.
awesome.
First it gets shown in the pub so everyone else can see you screaming like a girl, and then you can take it home and hide it.
Okay, but I suppose that, you say that shown in the pub, I suppose that's a large portion of why people go and do skydiving is because it's of the community and the communal social aspect to it.
It is. I mean, the skydiving community is most probably the best community of people I've ever met in your life. I mean, you've got people from draftsmen to doctors to CEOs of companies to students to everything. I mean, and from all walks of life, all cultures, all ages. I mean, we've got one guy just started his student progression. Now he's 72.
Oh, wow.
And he's not just doing it for once off. He's dedicated to it. And you've got other guys who are like.
Well, you
literally
might as well when you're
17.
72. What, anything goes wrong, who cares?
Fair enough.
Okay.
But I mean, it's the one thing is like skydiving is a great lever.
Right.
There's no difference. There's no judgmental about what you do, how much you earn, what car you drive. As long as you can buy around in the pub and you want to skydive, I mean, that's all people talk about. I mean, skydivers are the most boring conversationalists on the planet because all they talk about is skydiving. So I suppose it's similar to golfers.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, no, the community is fantastic, and it's an international community, and it's like there's connections. I've got built up connections now, and people in Spain, people in America, people in Dubai.
Well, that's now where it kind of comes into the Travelz aspect.
Yes.
Is because of this giant community, you do get the opportunity to go to some quite strange places. It's
It
not
is.
all about just being in Carltonville.
No, 100%. I mean, like once you got your A license, the world sort of opens up. Actually, they always say like B license is like second base. It's
Okay.
like it's where things really start. From there, you can start attending boogies. Can jump
Which
in a
boogies
room.
are kind of camps, like a way, like
Well,
skydiving camps.
like a convention, like
Right.
a fair, a festival, or whatever you
Okay.
want to call it. And that's where the real fun is at. I mean, like I just got back from Botswana now, which was unbelievable.
Yeah,
With
what was that like? I mean,
it
Botswana.
it was a completely mental experience. I mean, it's when we signed up, so people said, "Okay, we're going to Botswana." No one's ever jumped in Botswana before. We were like, "Okay, cool, let's go." We didn't actually realize just the immensity of the festival that was organized. It was sponsored by Botswana Tourism. I mean, we had the president of the country camping there with us. We were jumping out of his private plane.
Oh, wow.
And it's like the entire Botswana Tourism and Department of Environmental Affairs was behind the whole thing. It was in the Nata Bird Sanctuary, right next to the Nata Pans. So, I mean, literally we were jumping out in an area where for 150 kilometers in either direction, there's absolutely nothing.
Right, wilderness. Yeah.
And, I mean, the pictures of that and the footage it brought back from Botswana it was just amazing. I mean, like there were skydivers from all over the world that had come in to actually do it. And yeah, it's really mind blowing. I mean, like, but there's also options like locally. I mean,
Yeah.
there's boogies all the time. There was just one in Mozambique. There's a big one happening now in Jeffreys Bay at the end of this year, and then obviously internationally, I'm hoping to go to Dubai in December. We'll see how that works out.
Right.
But yeah,
Right, and then,
I mean,
as you said, Spain and Canada, and
yeah. I mean, like you got huge drop zones overseas, and again, it's like one of those weirdest things. I mean, I just randomly met some guy who happens to be a skydiver, and now we're going to Dubai together.
Okay.
And the same as like 3 of my friends just got back from Emporio Bravo in Spain. Same story. I mean, it's like a network of people that share passion. And it's one thing about skydiving, the passion just grows and grows and grows and grows. And the further you go in this sport, the further you want to go and you need to go. Yes, it is almost as addictive as crack.
Okay, so what are the contact details then for Joburg Skydiving Club? How do people get hold of these guys? What's
JSE, the best thing to do is www.jsc.co.za. All the contact details are on there. If you want to go sign up as a student, all the detail, the calendar for the next year is loaded up there to see what's happening, and then all the contact details if you want to do a tandem is on there as well. So yeah, just go to their website and
I know they've got a Facebook group as well I think it is the Joburg Skydivers Club.
yeah, there's several Facebook groups, but the Facebook groups are more for sports skydivers. There's 2. There's
Okay.
Johannesburg Sports Skydivers, which I think is a closed group, and then we've got the open group, which is JSE Skydivers, and yeah, if you want to just see what's happening, just ask to join. And even if you're not a skydiver and want to become a skydiver, I'm sure they'll let you in and just have a look around and see what people talk about.
There you go. So if you want to do touring the world and you want to do it in a totally unique, different way, see it from an angle no one else has seen it from, why not try jumping out of an aeroplane? You will need to take a brown suit if you're anything at all like me.